Modern architecture is always a fight between the stars in modern architecture and the newcomers. The newcomers, most of them try to copy the stars. Okay, this you have to understand because they are kids. On the other hand, newcomers are very important for architecture, but it's difficult for newcomers. So modern architecture is something that is always coming from this big pond of fresh architects who try to compete. Architecture is the profession in the world which has the biggest competition. And this is what I like about modern architecture. This is what makes architecture always modern. All the new architecture is modern. Of course, nowadays our reception of architecture is based on magazines. Magazines that are publishing so-called modern architecture. Nowadays you will something like we are now right now. Everybody would say, okay, this is very modern. But modernity is not defined by a certain style that is en vogue, that is the fashion of the day. Modernity is defined every day new. So be surprised, let yourself surprise, be engaged as an architect, create something new. There is no rule for modern architecture. I remember during my study I had a very good friend and colleague, and we were working for years. And in our generation we said an architect is somebody who knows everything and nothing. And this is something not many professions have. This is an ability to lose, to forget everything you know, and to start to play like a kid and create a multi-billion building from this first naive idea. And on the other hand, an architect has to be a very professional person who is able to control millions or billions of whatever currency to create houses, towers, whole new cities. So an architect has two sides that have to be balanced. From naivety, like Picasso, who many historians say he always stayed in certain way naive in his mind to be able to create this famous art. And on the other hand, you have to be a strong businessman. And this is something only a few people are able to balance and do, but every architect should learn this. And this is, from my point of view, also why I think a good architect, although it's very important that you start early, even if you are. I started my first million project in my fifth semester in the university, but I made also mistakes all the time. So architects have to grow up, but I think they really get good when they get older. Definitely, yeah. World financial crisis is a big chance for everybody. World financial crisis hopefully can be able to break up some structures that would otherwise never have changed. World financial crisis hopefully takes the money from those who have too much. And hopefully, like we saw yesterday in Athens, gives more to those who don't have enough, and use their right to protest, to get more from those who have too much. But this is a political point of view. You are asking for the architecture and the chances of architecture from a world financial crisis. For example, in the 70s, Richard Rogers, and what's that British architect who got so famous these days? With no hair. Sir Norman Foster, yeah. They started also in a time where architecture was a hard business. And they started with very simple architecture for industrial buildings. So every generation has its crisis. And every architect's generations have its crisis. And you have to. Actually, a crisis is always good because a crisis removes those things that are stopping innovation. A crisis is a new start for innovations, and our world, our society needs much more innovation. Asking about the 10 buildings that everybody should visit. It should be one very good house that has been built to let kids play in it. I remember when I was a kid, we had a house in the garden. I never saw this again in my whole life. It was maybe on sale for 1 year in the beginning of the 70s. It was a small wooden house with a door high like this, so only kids could enter this house. But by having a house for you as a kid alone, with a door where nobody could enter who was bigger than 90 centimeter, you as a kid had the power, could feel power. This is my house. No grown-up can go in. So in this house you felt very safe. And it was really your possession, your social space where you were playing the life of the grown-ups, what kids do when they play or whatever. This is something everybody should have in his childhood, of course. Yeah? It doesn't need to be a house. It can be just a corner with a plastic roof or whatever. But it should be his own space as a kid. Then when you grow up, you should have the same in school. Many schools don't have this. Schools actually are the worst buildings in the world from an architecture point of view. This is the problem of the governments who are building them. I have seen some good schools, but maybe only 1 or 2% of schools are really houses that enable the pupils to interact, that enable the pupils to feel well. So what you really should have seen and visited is not the tourist attractions. It's not the Eiffel Tower. I went to Paris, but I didn't want to get up the Eiffel Tower. Maybe I should tell you the places I really loved when I went there. This was museums. Museums is not so easy to visit, especially not if you have no knowledge about art. Museums is something that pushes you. You can get tired in a museum because you see a lot and you don't understand, you don't know the history, and you have to think a lot. What did he think when he was creating this? But a museum is something, or 5 of these 10 buildings should be museums to visit. Any kind of museum, small, whatever, but not a museum showing some antique coins. Definitely, I'm talking about art or photography in this case. And the other buildings, what should that be? Very modern buildings. Yeah, people should visit modern buildings. They should visit old buildings, but they should also try to, ordinary people, I'm talking about ordinary people should try to understand the viewpoints and the future that modern architecture is creating, because modern architecture can change so much and we don't have enough of this in the world. Yeah. If you come to Shanghai, you should definitely go to one of the old housing compounds. So you should visit the people in their daily life. Don't be shy. Walk inside, walk into their kitchens, talk to the people, you know, the lane houses, the compounds, the old compounds. Hutong, yeah, Hutong you call it in Beijing, in Shanghai you call it lane houses in English, yeah, or shikumen, yeah. Definitely visit the people in their daily life. Then you should visit the famous time of Shanghai, the 30s, the 1930s. You can visit the old slaughterhouse in Hong Kong. You can visit the Jewish quarter. If you go more back, then you come to the North Bund. Then you see the Astor House Hotel, the Broadway mansions. Then you cross the Suzhou Creek. Then you pass by which is now under renovation from David Chipperfield. You have the Rock Bund, where Rockefeller, together with a Chinese investor, is renovating the old social heart of the British society. Then you walk to the south until to the newly opened the first design hotel in Shanghai, the Waterhouse Hotel, and then you go again to where the people live. And if you have more time, then you take the ferry ship to Pudong, go to the highest bar in the world, have a nice free flow of champagne if you are lucky to be a girl every Wednesday night. Otherwise you just pay for the bottle of whiskey and vodka in the booming economy of China.